Welcome to this CCFFL update. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Alex.
This is brought to you by Hewitt Collectibles and Brown CPA. Immediately, no plugs.
Right.
All right. Now, the draft is over with. We're in that period between the fantasy football draft and week 1. All these teams on paper should be good.
Everybody's a champion.
Everyone. But we're going to go in and dissect quarterback, running back, tight end, and wide receivers. Why are we leaving out defense?
Because nobody cares about defense.
Because it's too week to week.
Because I have the number 1 protected defense for week 1. I didn't draft them.
Yeah, so defense is too much of a crapshoot. But we will judge each team independent. You know, we're in the league,
Yeah.
but we are looking at this very objectively. Yes. At least I am. I'm not going to speak for you.
Yeah, and we should also put the caveat on there, like, it's all projections. It's all guesses.
Yeah.
We'll probably be wrong on 90% of it.
Okay, and we'll get right into that. Immediately when you turned in your homework and I turned in my homework, it was jarring. We're very different grading scales.
Yes.
I'm a class that kids would love to come to because the professor's giving out easy A's, and you are a stickler.
I'm failing, kids.
Yeah, kids are having to repeat this class over and over again.
Kids are getting notes home.
Okay. In your thought process of your grading, talk me through that a little.
So I made like a formula based on like where I ranked the player, you know, individual players and like projected starters, and then somewhat bench as well, and then whatever the number that spit out, that's what I put.
So strictly numbers feeling, not so much gut. Did you change anything? Like, because I've done the same thing where I'll put a number out and then I'll be like, that feels low or that feels high. I'm going to adjust it myself.
So no, I trusted the formula, but there's gut in the rankings. So
Okay.
in the inputs.
Okay.
So
for me, I weighed projected starters heavily compared to bench. And my mindset is projecting out the bench is so like hit or miss on, like I don't really play the what if game. Well,
Yeah.
if so and so gets injured, his bench is great. No, we're not going to do that. In my mindset, I just stuck to, hey, this is the starters, this is the grade. If they had a backup, it helps, but
Yeah.
it doesn't totally affect and wreck the grade.
yeah, I took a more holistic approach as far as the entire like depth of the position to a certain extent. Like if there's any chance that person's going to be starting for them, the week like bye-week fillers and stuff like that.
Right, yeah. All right, well, let's just jump right into it with the Neal Street Neanderthals. All right, immediately, right now, you have Tom Brady as their quarterback, starting with Matt Ryan as their backup. I'm going to bring up my note real quick. I gave their quarterback situation an A.
Yep, I gave him a B. I should also say I think we're both on the line with this. We're like quarterbacks. Nobody's getting an F in quarterback. I didn't even give a D in quarterback. Like everybody's got a starter. Everybody's got a top 12 quarterback. Nobody's bungled it really bad and didn't get a starter.
Yeah, quarterback should be essentially if you don't have an A at quarterback, it's kind of like, well, you did something wrong.
Yeah, I gave A, B's, and C's at quarterback, but just because I felt like the top guys deserved a higher grade than the bottom end of the top 12.
Right.
So I gave a B here at quarterback for Tom Brady.
Okay, his running back position, I gave a B. And you're looking at Chase Edmonds, Christian McCaffrey, his backups, Deontay Foreman, James Cook. He's pretty thin at running back.
He has Singletary, too, who I think is probably his top 3.
Yeah, if he's slotted at his flex, I skip him.
So I gave him a C at running back just because he did good getting his handcuffs. He got Foreman and he has Cook and Singletary together, which will equal a starter, but I just don't like – it's not super deep. Edmonds isn't a super high-end 2, so I gave him a C.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the McCaffrey pick at number 1. I know we're not judging the draft, but
yeah,
I'm going to judge. I think Chase Edmonds is not a start. He's not an A+ running back. He's not even a B+ running back, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he has a lot of, okay. That's why he got a B.
It's pretty predicted. He didn't address RB2 until round 5, so pretty sure this won't be a shock to him.
Now jump into his wide receivers: A.J. Brown, Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy. And his depth is Sammy Watkins, Nico Collins, John. Is it Jahan? How do they say is it
Jahan
Dotson,
yeah.
Dotson, and AJ Green?
So I went with a C here on his receivers again with a C. It's not really that I don't like where he picked them or the value invested. I'm not really big fans of the guys themselves. So my C's, you'll kind of see a pattern here. Obviously, with a draft, you invest in one position, it's going to hurt you in others. He took a tight end in the second round. That's going to hurt his depth and grade at running back and wide receiver.
Yeah.
So I gave him a C.
Speaking of tight ends, taking a tight end in the second round usually means you have a pretty good high grade at tight end, and I gave him an A-.
I gave him an A. He has Kyle Pitts as a starter. Projected to be a really high starter, and then he also has a good backup in Cole Kmet, probably another top 12 guy.
Potentially, he could have weeks where he flexes his backup tight end in if he gets a little weak. That's, in a different universe, we would have done bench grade as its own thing.
Yeah.
Because that matters, how you can piece together and put together a team mid-season when you have to make those adjustments. Because speaking from experience, I started 3 running backs all of last season. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. Until I hit the playoffs. I literally had 3 guys that just rotated in. 2 guys, 1 guy setting out. And if you can ideally in a lot of situations have that happen, then you're looking pretty good and pretty solid.
Yeah, but that being said, if you better have guys that aren't going to get hurt doing that. And Christian McCaffrey, the number 1 overall guy, has not been healthy the last couple years.
Right. All right, that just brings us right to the punishers now. Talking about your own team is harder.
Yeah. And I should also caveat this that, so my formula I created is the same formula I built my team on. So it's obviously going to score me high.
All right.
But that's my, outlook on players and stuff as well.
So I gave your quarterback room an A.
I went with a B. I waited till, rounds 8 and 11 to address those, so I went with a B.
See, I didn't even bring up the draft on where you drafted. Dak Prescott should be your starter. He started off so hot. Was it last season or 2 seasons ago? Where he was, on fire, lighting up 500 passing yards a game, for a stretch. That can be something that happens again. I think your big question mark's Trey Lance, and it's puzzling to me that you have him as your starter.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards starting him week 1. I think Prescott is my high floor guy. Lance is my high ceiling guy. So hopefully one of them will work out for me for the year.
All right, now your running back room. What'd you give it?
I gave my running back a B. A lot of my season, a lot of everything hinges on Javonte Williams. Kind of gave up on last year, traded away to get him. He's a guy a lot of guys project really high, and a lot of people project, he's going to be splitting too much time with Melvin Gordon. So how that works out for me will determine a lot how my season goes, I think. So I gave myself a B at running back.
And I gave you a
A-.
So my thought process is Derrick Henry, and I think will he put up 2,000 yards? Probably not. But he's going to be a very week in and week out starter that you can count on. I'm high on Javonte Williams. I think he will be he's your future of the franchise.
Yeah.
I'm also think that Patterson, he's that sneaky guy that you plug in every now and then, and he's getting you 15, 16 points easily off of a touchdown.
If I can predict his boom weeks,
right.
I'll be in business. Yeah.
I'm not really a big fan of Raheem Mostert, and I'm not a big Harris guy, but I understand Harris has value in the system of the
I'm
Patriots.
not big fans of him either. Just value picks where they're at.
Yeah. All right, your wide receiver position.
I gave myself an A.
I give it a B+.
I love my wide receivers. I think Allen, Pittman, and Moore make up and then London is a 4th, make up one of the best receiving corps in the league.
I have to say it's the least sexiest of the receiving corps, but you have all these B+ players to me.
Yeah.
It's like you weren't all over the place with A, F. It was just B+ guy, B+ guy, B+ guy. B. It's a very solid team at wide receiver.
Yeah, I like it.
If Drake London pops off, and one of these rookies is gonna, you could be looking really nice there.
I pretty much have all my eggs in him being my rookie keeper basket, so hopefully he is at least looking good going into year 2.
And Devontae Parker on your bench, and your 2 bench guys, Gage and Parker, those are sneaky good plays there because there's a chance Godwin could be out, miss some time here or there, and Gage could just be that guy that Tom Brady just finds those guys.
Whoever Tom Brady falls in love with.
And Devontae Parker is that talent that goes to the Patriots that could either be like, oh my God, he had 15 catches all year, or oh wow, he had 80.
He's projected by a lot as the Patriots #1, and I got him 2 rounds later than Jacoby Myers. Wow. So happy about that.
Yeah. And your tight end position, what'd you give yourself?
I gave myself a B. Again, I kind of waited a little bit. I got Schultz in round 5, so I waited a little bit, but not too late. And then Higbee's a fine backup. I
gave you a B-, and that's because I'm not a big Schultz guy. I think he was a kind of fluky season. I really like Tyler Higbee, though, as a solid, like, oh, gosh, Schultz is out with an injury for a couple weeks. Higbee can fill in fine. Tight ends are so hard.
Yeah.
There's like 4 good ones, and then the rest are mediocre.
I like the Prescott-Schultz stack I have going on.
Yeah. Let's jump to the Buccaneers.
Yes.
New school Buccaneers.
They scored highest. The Buccaneers did overall.
Same for me.
Okay. So let's start with QB. What'd you give them?
An A.
I went with B. I'm not a huge Kyler Murray guy, but, a lot of people are high on him this year. I gave him a B.
I gave them an A because Kirk Cousins is going to be their starter. And they can either one, Kirk Cousins or Kyler Murray, will be traded. They will not be on the team by week 6.
Cousins in round 14. Is that one of your steals of the draft?
That would be my biggest takeaway from the draft is they got a guy that is potentially a top 6 quarterback, meaning he's 6th. Or I would have said top 5. That late in the draft. I think this time next year we'll be talking about, man, you remember when they got Cousins at 14? It's one of those things that happens. And they happen every year. The year before last, it was Burrow. He was so late.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think look at Cousins in the same light.
I think the new offense. This is one of those things. Also, we could be looking at this in week 3 and be like, oh my God, Kevin McConnell, head coach, is a bust. He doesn't know how to run the team. But all signs are predicting they're going to be high octane more so than ever. And Kirk Cousins' weapons are sneaky, like top 5 in the league. Yeah. Adam Thielen doesn't get much love anymore.
But he's solid.
But KJ Osborne is really a good third guy. And Dalvin Cook out of the backfield. That's a good team. The Vikings are going to be good. Yeah. I don't really like Kyler Murray, but
same.
What'd you give their running backs?
I gave the running backs an A, which I've came around on the Cam Akers pick in the 2nd round. I don't think the running backs are super deep, but I mean Eckler won you. Big part of winning you a championship last year.
Yeah.
I think Akers is good. Cam Edwards-Helaire, he should be good enough to be your 3 just in that offense. He's got the good handcuff in Pacheco or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I like Benjamin as a late round flyer.
So I gave them an A-, and it's only because I'm not high on Akers, but I think Austin Eckler should have been the first pick of the draft.
Yeah.
He is Christian McCaffrey, but in a better offense.
And probably a little less injury prone.
Yeah, I mean, but Eckler does have that, like, oh my God, every time he gets tackled, when you have him, you're hoping he gets up. Because he has that history of, he got a little knee injury that now he's not out, but he's not playing.
Not 100%.
So it really screws you. Wide receivers, what do you give them?
So going into the draft, they had the best, in my opinion, the best keeper situation. 2 of the best receivers off the board with rounds 4 and 5. But I ended up giving them a B, and that's strictly because I don't like anybody behind those 2. Maybe save for Palmer as a late round flyer, but I just don't think I don't think they have a 3, to be honest with you. I think it's shallow after the top 2 guys, who obviously are 2 of the best guys in the league.
I give them a B+, but it should be an A+. They should have hit, if they would have just hit on one guy after their top 2 guys, it would be a hands down A+. But right. Brandon Ayuk, I know he's burnt you, and I had him his rookie year, and he was very hot and cold.
Hopefully he puts up a 1 point for him in the first 6 weeks. That'd be an improvement of last year.
But with that said, having Chase and Diggs, how can you not roll them out every week, and you potentially have you can 40 points between the two of them every week.
Yeah, yes, they're going to be great, but you have to start 3. A lot of teams are going to be starting 4.
Right.
I'm not sure if they're going to have good 3 and 4 options.
Let's go to their tight end. What'd you give them?
I gave their tight end an A. They invested early. They got a lot of people's number 1 tight end in the ranking. They got him in the 3rd round. He was the 3rd tight end off the board.
Mark
so
Andrews,
I gave him an A.
and then Mike Gesicki as the backup.
It's a good backup.
Yeah, I agree. That's a solid. There's only one team that has a better tight end room, and that's because he invested heavily. I give the Buccaneers an A because you have a top 3 tight end. Even if he's having a little bit of a down year, he's a top 3 tight end.
Yep.
And the other guy in Miami, I had him going I wanted to snag him late myself because the potential could have been there in that new offense. You don't really know what it can be. It didn't look good though there at the end when they're talking about he's a blocking guy.
Yeah.
But how many times have we seen blocking tight ends like, oh God, this guy all of a sudden is
and like you said, he's
the backup.
He's backup. He's not.
Some teams don't even have a backup tight end.
Several.
Let's jump to the Nashport Nitro.
Quarterback A, best quarterback in the league. Got him for a 9th round investment because of the keeper rule.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I don't even know if he has a backup. It shouldn't matter. Got Mac Jones. It shouldn't matter.
His backup sucks, but his
who cares? He's got Josh Allen.
Yeah, his starter is
and probably he's going to have Josh Allen for 4 or 5 years.
A franchise guy
at that keeper.
Where do you keep? Where's he at?
9th.
Ninth?
Cost him a 9th this year.
So an 8th next year. I think probably around when it costs him a 4 or 3. That's when you start going,
So you start thinking about it. Yeah.
Maybe, but then I know from just being in the draft and observing a little thing, it was really nice for those guys not to even have to worry about a quarterback.
For sure. Yeah. Definitely.
So that looking at that into the future for those teams that are like, hey, maybe I'll hit one of these quarterbacks late, and then not have to even think about it.
Yeah, it's nice. One less thing to worry about.
What'd you give his running back room?
Running backs, I gave a B. He hit it early, invested in it early, that's how I've always built my teams, which I like to see. Not a huge Zeke guy, but where he was picked, I think that was all right. He's got Dameon Pierce in the 7th, and his value's only gone up since our draft. And got some pretty solid depth guys as well.
Right, I give him an A- because he has Dalvin Cook is a A+ running back. Zeke is a B+ running back. Pierce potentially is going to get all the there you're going with volume. It's a volume guy. Even if he's not that good, if he's getting 20 touches a game, he's going to produce you some points.
Yeah.
Mike Davis is there's the Baltimore problem is he could start or he could never play. Who knows?
Yeah, he picked him up after.
I'm not a fan of Gainwell or Herbert, but I think his starters are superior enough that his depth doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think Herbert has a chance to eat into Montgomery stuff, but I won't fight you on that too hard. What about his wide receivers?
I give his wide receivers a B. He needs someone to become a stud very fast.
So this is our first, probably a big difference in my first really low grade. I gave his wide receivers a D. He hit him in rounds 3, 4, and 5. And
so let's tell them they got Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Wendell Robinson, and Sky Moore, and Julio Jones.
Yeah, so this is a situation I just don't like the guys he picked. McLaurin,
I owned him he was on my roster last year.
Yeah.
He's solid, but he also is frustrating because his team sucked last year.
Well, they're going to suck again.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz sucks. Bad team. Amon-Ra St. Brown, bad team. DK Metcalf, bad team.
Could be throwing it a lot, though.
Yeah, but I just don't look at all 3 of their quarterbacks. I just don't like.
Oh, you don't love any of them. You wouldn't want any of them. Goff is the best one.
He needs Sky Moore to pop off and become a deep threat favorite for
sure.
Mahomes.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
One of these guys becomes a stud, and then he's fine. If you're Drake London, isn't the rookie sensation. He has two guys that potentially could be rookie sensations, and Wendell Robinson and Sky Moore. I'm not Robinson is more of a late in the year, like, oh, he's looking good, I might keep him as my rookie keeper.
Right.
Sky Moore, the expectations on him have got to be through the roof there in Nashport.
For sure.
You like how I made it like it was real?
Yeah. Then tight end, I also gave him a D. Just not a fan of Goddard. And I think he's already cut Hill, who was his backup. Just not a big Goddard guy.
I gave him a B because my tight end grades, no one's getting destroyed too much. Philly Goddard is one of these guys that, he's fine. He's in the Dalton Schultz category for me. Like, they're fine.
Yeah.
They're just good. They're fine. You can
They're
plug
white
them in.
guys, say it. They're white tight
They're
ends.
just white,
that aren't
white bread
Kelsey.
tight ends that you are interchangeable. They'll go in. They'll get you 7 to 13 points, and you won't have to worry other than injury, because I think Goddard has an injury history.
A little bit, yeah.
But his team overall is good. His starters that way, anyway. And it's the Josh Allen factor. It's what teams with Mahomes or Allen or these guys that can put up 50 in a week, they're never out of it. It doesn't matter. As long as Cook, Elliott, and them, if everyone stays pretty healthy, he'll be a playoff team.
Yeah, Cook and Elliott also with somewhat injury history, so maybe
he has a lot
of a risky team.
He's that guy. It's the team. Nashport's the team that, if all goes right, he'll probably make the playoffs. Who knows after that point?
Yeah.
But he potentially is like an injury away of a disastrous season.
Yeah.
And no one stepping up.
True. Yep. Agreed.
All right, that brings us to the Turf Ticklers. Now,
I'll let you start.
Looking at his team, on draft day, there was a lot of mockery. He was and I feel like it's been the last couple seasons. It seems like this owner has lost his mind. He's become Al Davis, Jerry Jones, of these guys that they were successful early on, and for whatever reason, they cannot put it together. But we'll start at quarterback. He has an A- quarterback in Russell Wilson. No depth, though.
I gave his quarterback situation a C. I don't hate Wilson. I don't think he's a top guy anymore. And then, no depth.
I mean, he literally has no depth. He has no backup quarterback.
Right.
So this Monday night, Wilson goes down. He has the Buccaneers on the phone begging for Kirk Cousins. And the problem is he probably don't have the assets to give up.
Yes. His running backs, I gave a B. He again invested capital in that early. I like Mixon. I like Chubb. He's got that AFC North running back crew. Sanders is fine where he got him.
This is where
got Hunt as well, which is I don't think we've seen a Chubb Hunt pairing in our league yet, even though a lot of people have tried.
Right. I give his room an A-. I think Joe Mixon's going to be. He doesn't have that A+ guy, but he has a lot of these B+, A- guys that Hunt can be that guy. He runs into the issue though of it's either going to be Hunt or Chubb. Some weeks he might have to start both of them.
Yeah, which may not be the worst thing in the world. I'll start as wide receivers. That way we don't end him on you can build him up a little bit after I tear him down. Okay. This is my least favorite position group in the league.
Wow.
F-.
Oh my God.
He didn't address. He had 2 wide receiver keepers. I thought he had the worst keeper situation going in the draft. He had 2 wide receiver keepers. He drafted like those were a 1 and a 2 wide receiver. He didn't address that again until the 5th round, and then again after that till the 9th round. I just don't think he invested the assets. Now he has 1 million of them on his team, which is why he doesn't have depth at quarterback. If you're gonna make up for value with volume, you're going to hurt your other positions.
Yeah.
But I don't like him.
I am giving him a B-. I'm being pretty generous. I like Rondell Moore. I'm high on him. I think Rondell Moore will be his keeper again. That's where I project that he'll be the new guy in Arizona as the gadget player. Marquise Brown, the problem is he's in Arizona with Rondell Moore. So it's like Hollywood Brown is not that good on his own, and now you pair him with a teammate, so only one of them potentially are going to have those good games.
Right.
Bobby Trees is fine. He's in Tennessee, and we've seen guys go and die in Tennessee, and then you have to be really good to overcome their offense for a wide receiver.
My point is, yeah, I agree he's fine. I think he's probably Tickler's best receiver.
Oh, I can't argue that.
Like
right now, yeah.
That's the problem. We shouldn't be calling your number one receiver fine. Or you're arguably your number one. I do like Gallup. He needs Gallup to get healthy and back and really good in a hurry.
I think Corey Davis is not good anymore.
No.
And he's on the Jets.
He's like the third option.
MVS, we don't know. And from having he has MVS and Mecole Hardman. So he's going to be playing the guessing game each week on who's going to pop off.
Sky Moore be the great.
Yeah, and then it's not going to matter because he just throws to Kelsey. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's a rough. I was being really nice with that B-, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Tight ends, though, I gave an A. He paid for it.
Yeah, he gets an A+ at tight end for me because
he's going to start 2 tight ends every week.
He bet the farm on tight end play this year.
He's already cut Hayden Hurst, so he just has the 2. But I mean, those are 2 starters every single week. Although both of them have injury concerns going into the season.
Yeah,
Waller's coming off an injury, and Kittle is missing practice right now. So
wow,
not great.
So that brings overall, do you think he's the worst team?
He's among bottom 3.
Okay. That brings us to the Cincinnati Harambes.
Okay. The Harambes, I gave their quarterback situation a C. He waited a long time to take quarterback, which I don't hate the Rodgers value at 9, but I just don't think Rodgers is a top fantasy guy anymore. Now, he might win the NFL MVP for a 3rd year in a row.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a top 5 fantasy MVP.
I'm generous with the quarterback grades, so he got an A because Rodgers is a guy that consistently can play good. He's not going to get hurt.
Yeah.
It's a guy he can plug in and really only needs Lawrence for 1 week during a bye week.
And again, I don't hate any of these quarterbacks really. I just wanted to give the Allens, the Herberts, the Mahomes of the league some separation. This is why I'm grading some of these guys as low as I am.
Now, his running back room, I gave an A because I think Alvin Kamara is potentially going to be what he was. Mm-hmm. It sounds like he's not going to get in any trouble this season. So it's just keep an injury bug away, and he'll be fine. He's still young enough to be good. Travis Etienne is kind of an unknown, but all signs are pointing to he's the starter. He's going to get the volume, so he got a high-volume guy with good talent.
I gave him a C. I like Kamara. Etienne is such a question mark because you say that. I've seen equal as many reports with James Robinson as the starter, and he's recovered miraculously from an Achilles tear, and he's going to be the starter.
So James Robinson is one of those guys that if you're an Etienne owner, you hate that guy because he's talented enough to warrant play regardless of how talented Etienne is.
Right. And I'm just not a big Dylan fan as a 3.
Dylan
it hurt him that Robinson had that incident.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Mark Ingram and Chuba Hubbard are okay.
They're handcuffed.
Hubbard is irrelevant unless McCaffrey gets hurt, and then he's still not that good because the Panthers are just going to fall apart at that point. Ingram's that guy, the old man running back that just plows ahead and has those games that you're like, how's this dude putting up 15 fantasy points?
But he's never going to start him with Kamara in there, and he's never going to.
True.
Unless Kamara gets hurt, and then it's still not going to be 100% Ingram back.
Very, very true. What'd you give his wide receivers?
His wide receivers an A. I've been not shy about saying I love Deebo Samuels. I don't love Tyreek Hill this year, but Tyreek Hill in the middle of the second, can't argue with that. Love the Deontay Johnson pick in the 3rd. Good depth throughout. He ended up trading with you to get DeAndre Hopkins, that should pay dividends late in the year. I gave it an A.
If Hopkins was healthy now, it's an A+. Mm-hmm. He is so close to the A+, but it is an A. And that is because the same thing, I'm not too sure what Hill's going to look like in Miami. Mm-hmm. And I'm not as high on Deebo as everyone else. Mm-hmm. But I love Deontay Johnson. I love the Devontae Smith, and for where he got Robin. He has And he has that, the young guy that, could potentially pop off in Green Bay. He has a lot of sunshine on his wide receivers.
Yes, he's good top to bottom, I'd say, wide receiver.
Where you got tight end?
Tight end, I gave him a D. Not a big Hawkinson fan, and I don't think, unless he's picked somebody up.
He does not have a backup.
He has depth. Hawkinson, another guy with some injuries. None of these tight ends are perfect, but another guy with some injury concerns and a shit offense.
Yeah.
With a lot of wide receivers around him now. So just give it a D.
It's a B because he has, he's just
got a white starting tight end.
Yep.
Give him a B.
Yeah. You cracked my system. All right, that goes to the sucker punches.
Okay, sucker punches, I gave the quarterback an A. He got Lamar Jackson in the 5th, which I think is pretty damn good value.
I also gave him an A. Upon looking closer at his team, I thought he had a very good his roster was very well put together during the draft.
I did too, except for one position.
I think Lamar Jackson he's in that club of the 40 to 50 point guy.
Yeah.
Who did you say his backup was?
He's got Fields, which I think is a good flyer.
Yeah, Fields is, he has a lot of his ceiling is nice, but also that floor is pretty low.
14th round investment, I think, is a smart investment there.
Yeah.
So his running backs, this is the part of his team I did not like. Gave him his running backs an F.
Oh, my God. He has starting running backs?
He took Josh Jacobs in the 3rd. I'm not a Josh Jacobs fan. I definitely think he's going to be splitting carries
Oh,
this
my
year.
God.
He didn't address his RB2 until round 6. For me, he drafted like a team who had a solid keeper running back somewhere, and he didn't. And that running back in 6 was Henry Gibson, who up until, thank goodness for Jake, that Brian Robinson got shot. Or Gibson might not even be playing. Michael Carter's another guy who's going to lose carries throughout the year to the young rookie. And he's only got 4 on the roster. I just don't like
I gave him a B- because he doesn't have a stud. But he has players that are in the NFL, for God's sake.
I don't think he has a 1, and I would argue he doesn't have a 2.
Wow.
I think he's going to be at the detriment at that position every week. It's my least favorite running back core in the league.
Wow. What about his wide receivers?
His wide receivers, though, I gave a B. Went in with some great value at his keepers. Took Adams in the 1st, so he's invested a lot of resources into that. I like the Thomas pick in the 4. He's got some good rookie. He should have another good value rookie keeper next year, so I like where it's going. I gave it a B.
I give it an A. It's a very close A+ as well. If Thomas comes back and he's that stud that he was, he has an A+ wide receiving core.
On to tight end, I gave it a B. He got Kelsey in the 2nd, so he got a good tight end, but invested in it. I'm not a big fan of his backup and Alberto. But my God, Kelsey's 100 years old. How long can he do it?
It's an A+ until Kelsey proves that he can't do it anymore for me.
It's fair.
Let's go ahead and move on to the hooligans.
Hooligans, which is Dean.
Dean Bag Chair.
I gave his quarterback a C. He waited very long to address it. I don't hate Matthew Stafford, but he waited till around 9. Stafford's fine.
A. He's fine.
I think all the shoulder issues are overblown.
Yeah, I think so too. And he essentially swapped out a wide receiver for another wide receiver of equal close talent. So I think the team's fine. Another year in the system. That was his first. I think everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. Running backs, I went with a C. He invested in them early. Took Swift and Fournette in the first 2. Waited a while after that and got Melvin Gordon in the 8th. And beyond that, there's not much there. I think it's a little bit shallow, and I'm just not a huge fan of his top 2 guys, although those were about where they were projected.
I actually I really like his running backs. I gave him an A. I think Swift, there's a formula out there about a certain, where 4 running backs could fit this formula that happens 90% of the years of popping off, and Swift was one of those 4 guys. Okay. So I think, especially where he picked him in the draft, we could be looking at at the end of the year, that's a top 3 running back or top 3 overall fantasy position, not counting quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Fournette is one of those guys I hate that he produces so much because I just don't like him.
Yeah.
And his depth's okay. Nothing crazy good, but it's fine.
Yeah. Wide receivers, I gave him a B, which is pretty good considering he didn't draft one until round 3, and it wasn't his. Who was his keeper?
Cup is his keeper.
Oh, Cup. That's why.
So he has Cup.
So yeah.
Williams, Renfro,
Yeah, I like his receiving core.
KJ Osborne. Is that EJ Moore or Elijah Moore?
That's Elijah Moore.
I think having Cooper Kupp and Hunter Renfro, they're going to catch a lot of balls. With the half-point PPR, that's not as valuable as it was. So, in previous years, I think Renfro would even be higher value.
He offsets that nicely with Mike Williams, who is more of a big play guy.
Right.
I like his receiving core.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I gave them A.
Okay.
And tight ends, I bet it's a white tight end because I gave him a B. What is it?
Dawson Knox.
Yeah.
And Robert Tonyan. Maybe the whitest tight end group in the league. I gave them a C. They're fine. They're not going to win them games. They shouldn't lose them games.
Yeah. That puts us to the Stranglers.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
We might come to blows.
So
I did. Looking at your team, this is maybe the one that would signify me that my system's not perfect. Because when I look at your team, I don't see it as bad, but my grades in this system were bad.
quarterback, I gave myself an A-, and that's because Joe Burrow, I think he's an A, but my depth is 2 rookies, so they might not even play, and I might be picking up a guy for a week.
I gave you a C. I like Burrow, but yeah, I don't think your depth's going to help you a whole lot this year. Maybe keeper value.
Running backs, I have Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, and Matson, J.K. Dobbins, Zamir White.
I gave you a D, and a lot of this is out of control because I liked the Dobbins pick at the time, but that has only lost value since the draft. They're saying now it might be multiple weeks he's out, which just hurts, and I don't think you're super good. I don't think you have the depth to make up for that loss. Give you a D. I like Aaron Jones. I don't like much beyond that.
I think Aaron Jones is an A, and then I got a lot of guys that are Bs or lower. And that is simply because they all need something else to happen for their talent to succeed. The Stranglers are looking like they're going to be relying a lot on some non-field, they need injuries to happen to other people for other guys to fill those starting roles. 1 or 2, even just one of those happen. If Zeke goes down, Tony Pollard's the number 1 guy, hands down. Yeah. If Matson goes down, if Cook goes down, Matson goes in. That's a solid play.
Yeah, I think you're relying on that, which is, it could happen, but I don't think it's great to be relying on that.
True, it's not a position you want to be in. I gave myself a B- at running back.
Yeah. So wide receivers, I gave you a C.
I think you're insane.
I like the guys you got when you got them, but you didn't invest early, so you didn't put as much capital into it as a lot of other teams did.
I gave myself a B+ because Justin Jefferson, stud. I would fight anyone who says that he's not in a top 5 fantasy player.
I'm not arguing with you. I think it's past that we.
Allen Robinson is fine. Could be great. Could be fine. I don't think I think he has a low floor, or not. I think he has a high floor, but his ceiling's not very high. He's in the Terry McLaurin role that I had last year of a guy that I'm just throwing out there every week to get some consistent points, hopefully.
I like Robinson, but you can't ignore that all reports are he basically quit last year in Chicago and wasn't giving 100% effort.
I don't mind. That's last year. We're talking about this year. This is this year's Allen Robinson.
Yeah. I think he's a solid 3. I don't like him as your 2, which I think is what he slots in at.
Yeah. Tyler Boyd is not ideal at starting 3. He is more of a...
I think Godwin's your 3.
Godwin will be my 3 once they're healthy. Yeah. My wide receiving core with Godwin, Allen, and Justin Jefferson. That is that's a perfectly fine, serviceable fantasy football championship wide receiver core. I need a few rookies to pop off in that position, like Romeo Doubs or Alec Pierce.
And you also then you trade for Pickens.
Oh, yeah, and Pickett.
Yeah.
George Pickens.
You're going to have a lot of options at rookie keeper next year, for sure.
George Pickens, I think, has potential to be he's in the handful of guys that are like, okay, one of these guys is likely to be the guy that pops off.
I think Pickens pops off next year once, because I think at least Claypool, maybe multiple of those Steelers receivers or contracts are up. I think Pickens is going to be up next to Deontay Johnson being a beast next year. Is my thought.
Tight end, I gave myself a D. what it is.
Yeah.
It's
I gave you
David
an F,
Njoku.
which I don't think anybody's surprised. You got a tight end 2. My
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
He could be serviceable, but he could not.
Let's go to the Knights.
Okay. Find them here. The Knights, I gave quarterback an A. Got Justin Herbert, top 3 quarterback for late round value.
Agree 100%.
Okay. His running backs, I gave a C. Not a huge James Conner fan. I think he was more of a second round guy, and Aaron took him in the first. Mitchell in the 4th. He just didn't invest a lot in running back, so I don't think the grade should be a huge surprise. The guys he have could rise to the occasion.
I gave him a B, and looking at it more, there's not a guy that I love at all. I think I'm putting a little stock in the ownership there, that they knew what they were doing.
He's very high on Ramondre Stevenson, which I don't necessarily see, but might pan out.
As far as wide receivers go, I gave a B.
I gave his wide receiver a C. I like Evans in the 2nd. Cooks is, he's a very high floor, pretty low ceiling. Not low ceiling, but like he's got a very thin outcome of what he's gonna do.
He's weird that all signs point to this guy should not produce anymore, and he's
very consistent.
He's Cotton Hill. He has no shins, but somehow he walks. Mike Evans, a solid play. I'm not a big Mooney guy. I think he has talent. As if he was the 2 or 3 on a team, he would be great. But being that number 1 guy, I just don't think he has the size.
I like Mooney, but I think he relies on Fields to be. He needs Fields to be really good too.
Oh, I missed. Did you say James Conner for running back?
Yeah.
'Cause I'm salty about that still.
Yeah, I said I didn't really like. I thought he was a 2nd round guy, not a 1st round guy.
So did I.
And then tight end, I gave him an F. He's kind of the same boat as you were. He took a tight end in the 17th round. He has a tight end 2 that may be serviceable, may not.
Let's talk real quick about Odell Beckham. Back to the wide receivers. What do you think of that?
It's going to be so late in the year when he's ready to play, and then I don't think he has much value this year. And he's not getting any younger. Maybe he comes back and he's good, but I don't think he's anywhere in like keeper potential, especially with Herbert at a good value.
And his age, to be honest.
I don't think he had much value. He only invested a 15th round, so I don't hate it, but I don't give my stock to that.
All right, let's jump to the Norwalls. Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback. It's hard to. I'm curious to see what your grade on that is. I gave him an A+.
Yeah, I think. He got top 3 quarterback. He had to spend a 3rd round pick for it. What I hate is he had. Okay. I got a little bit of
a quarterback. Are we talking quarterback still?
No, we can.
One
A
final
for quarterback.
A plus for quarterback, but he also potentially has Deshaun Watson super late if he becomes.
Yeah.
If he becomes what he's getting paid to be.
Week 11.
It is interesting. He is a team that has 3 quarterbacks that are all. He has Tua. This is everyone, if Tua's going to have a good year, this should be the year.
My thing is, I don't think either one of them is ever going to start over Mahomes.
True. So why waste any?
Right. He didn't spend a lot of capital on them.
True.
Watson, so the guy's going to be off for 2+ years. You think he's going to come back?
No, personally, I don't.
I don't either. I think he's going to, best case scenario, what the Browns are hoping, or like he comes back, he knocks the rust off, ramps up, and he looks good going in the next year. I don't think this year is going to happen for either of these. Running backs, I give him an A.
I give him an A+.
Exactly what he should have had with his keepers. But he spent a lot of assets at running back.
I think his running back room is the best in the league.
Agreed.
But should be the best in the league.
Agreed.
But there's no problem with becoming the best in the league if you're supposed to be the best. He's meeting expectation at running back.
My problem is going into wide receiver.
Okay, what'd you give him at wide receiver?
F-.
Oh.
Second worst group next to the Ticklers.
I give him a B.
So here's my thing. You have your first round, second round picker gone. You've pretty much already locked down best running back according to the league. He goes quarterback in round 3 and then running back again in round 4. He doesn't address wide receiver to round 5, and when he does, I think the players he took are shaky.
So let's say he has Adam Thielen, Jarvis Landry, Amari Cooper, Van Jefferson, Chase Claypool, and Chris Olave.
I love Chris Olave. That's all I love.
I love Chris Olave. I think Thielen, Cooper, and Landry are fine when your running back core is that good. I think they'll be fine for him.
I think he's going to be. I think he'll go into every matchup with a plus advantage at running back and with a minus advantage, except for the ticklers at wide receiver.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the worst in the league.
He also has Breece Hall at running back.
Right. I don't think Breece Hall was worth waiting another round on a wide receiver.
Right. Tight end. What do you give as tight end?
I gave his tight end a C. Ertz is fine.
I gave it a
And Everett's a solid backup.
B- for the same reasons.
Yeah.
All right. That moves us to our final team, the Dots.
Name change. Argodots, I think.
Yep.
Okay, I gave his quarterback a B. I like Jalen Hurts, and he didn't have to send a super high draft pick to get him.
I gave his quarterback an A- because he doesn't have a backup.
Yeah, I think that's probably why I nicked him a little bit too. But I gave him a B. He took Hurts in the 5th, which I think is probably a pretty good value. I was definitely looking to take him soon after that if he didn't take him.
What do you give his running back room, which has Saquon Barkley, Rashad Penny, and David Montgomery, James Robinson, Tyler Algier.
I gave it a
Ricard White.
I gave him a D, mainly because I don't like Saquon Barkley. I think he has good depth. He has a lot of guys that could be serviceable.
I gave him a B+.
Yeah, I don't. I like Penny. I like Robinson. I like White. I like Algier. I just don't like Barkley, who is number one guy. So that hurts a lot.
Wide receivers, I gave a B+. He has CeeDee Lamb, Cortland Sutton, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Gabe Davis, Tyler Lockett, Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah,
that's a solid wide receiver core.
I gave it a B. I think Gabe Davis was sneaky, really good value at keeper.
I'm not as high on CeeDee Lamb, or I probably would have given that in the A category.
So here's my knock on the whole Argodots strategy. He chose that 12th round draft pick early on. He could have had, I don't remember exactly, maybe like 6th, 7th, 8th. He could have got
to back
a lot better value than CeeDee Lamb in the first round, in my opinion.
Because under the assumption was, he's keeping Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
And he ended up not.
Which is fine. I like that. I agree with keeping Gabe Davis, but he should have
probably.
And maybe he did. Identified that and took an earlier draft pick, and maybe he did and liked the turn at 12-2. But I just
a lot of people do like that turn, and a lot of people would rather pick late.
I would rather take that turn over maybe like 10th or 11th, but not over like 6th or 7th.
Yeah,
he could have had Devontae Adams to CeeDee Lamb, which I would have liked a lot more.
Me too, 100%. Tight end, I give a B.
I gave him
because he has a white tight end, Pat Fairmouth.
B as well. That's a good keeper value. He didn't, like you were talking about earlier, not to worry about his quarterback. He's the only team that didn't have to worry about his tight end.
Yeah.
He took
and Hunter Henry.
Fine. Yeah. Solid tight end for not investing very much in him.
Yep. So with all that said, what are your final grades of these teams?
All right. So I have some tiers.
Okay.
Honor students. With a GPA of 4.0 or above.
Okay.
Honor roll.
Okay.
Number one team, the New School Buccaneers. I gave them a 4.5, which is getting you some scholarships. You're doing great.
Which is interesting because two heads are better than one, is what we're learning. And they got enough hair for two heads with one guy.
I think lack of hair is what was holding the Buccaneers back.
This whole time.
They really addressed that in the offseason.
That's the biggest.
Aggressively.
Yeah.
I didn't give them anything lower than a B. Probably, definitely in the conversation for best, probably in conversation for best wide receivers and best running backs. Not straight out, but probably in the conversation. Definitely best top 2 wide receivers. So I give him a 4.5, number 1 team in the league. Second and into this tier honor roll, I gave myself 4.25. I don't think I necessarily have the best at anything. I think I'm in the wide receiver argument, but I think I'm solid throughout.
I think that's going to get you a lot of heat with people watching this.
That's fine. I'll look forward to their show. Power rankings. Yeah. Okay, next tier. These are teams that did well. I gave Jeff the Neanderthals a 3.75. Just good, solid throughout. Gave the Sucker Punches and the Argonauts a 3.5. Sucker Punches, that's saying a lot about the rest of his team, considering I gave his running backs an F. So I like the rest of his team. Same kind with the Argonauts. I didn't grade his receivers high, but I like the rest of his team.
Yeah.
Or running backs high, sorry. Next, I have the Nitro, the Harambes, the Hooligans, and the Narwhals, all getting a 3.25. They're, in my opinion, going to be teams fighting for those playoff spots right at the end there. I gave the Ticklers and Knights a 3. And then I gave you a 2.25.
That's what I graduated with.
So right on.
Hey.
One argument for this is I probably weighted the tight end position a little too heavily, which hurt you and the Knights quite a bit, which is not a bigger factor as running back, wide receiver, quarterback.
Right. If this was a grading scale, that would be weighted out of 5, and everything else would be weighted out of 10.
Something like that, yeah. I would have weighted it differently, but yeah, that's my overall takeaways.
All right, now let's go with anything that sticks out from the draft or going into the season of note that you think is worth mentioning on this show.
So I think I didn't really think about this when we made the new keeper rule, but I think it's made not necessarily like the best team and worst team lopsided, but it's made individual teams very lopsided. Super running back cores, crappy wide receiver cores, and vice versa. I don't think we've had that before. This will be the first year I have that. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Narwhal's great running back core makes up for his subpar wide receiving core.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see how the Buccaneers' super wide receiver core, how much that puts them above the competition. I think it's going to be interesting to watch this year.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. With this draft, it was kind of jarring because before it was easy. We all had one keeper, and you kind of just went, okay, best wide receiver or running back available in the first round. I'm going to take him. Now you potentially, that's not the case for a lot of teams, or they don't even have there could be a flood of, well, there's all these guys missing, so I need to make up ground and have to overinvest traditionally in positions that you normally wouldn't.
Yeah, big shockwaves in the league, which I think are positive. I think it puts more strategy into team building.
For sure. I love the new rule, and I haven't heard anyone really complain, if they're being honest with themselves, that they don't like it.
Yeah, I was I wasn't like 100% into it when we started it, but I think I ended up voting for it. But I'm very pleased with how it's gone. I like it a lot.
It makes it a very interesting late round experiment because everyone is throwing darts at rookies at that point.
Yep.
For me personally, I did not estimate the correct value that other people would be putting into rookies. Guys that I was positive of that I would get past rounds 12, they were going in rounds 9 because people were just like, I'm going to take that stab at that rookie at that spot, because you can kind of see where people started to roll the dice a little with that this year.
For sure.
And it was definitely around the 7, 8, 9. People were, okay, I'm going to take that risk.
Yeah. Like I said, we've seen the impact in the draft. Now it's going to be really interesting to see it throughout the year.
Right.
Team building.
And I think another big rule that has already taken effect is not being able to drop guys and pick them back up and keep them.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot harder to look at a position when you're like, okay, I need to drop someone, but do I want to drop this guy and he pops off and I could keep him potentially for nothing?
So I've thought about in another year I may have already dropped a guy like Hassan Haskins or Tyquan Thornton, but since they're my only other two rookie options with London, like say he's a complete total bust, I want to have other options, for super late round value. Not saying those guys are going to be great, but in past years I might have just went in and dropped those thinking maybe I can just snag them later if I want to reorganize the team.
I'm in the exact same way with Desmond Ridder and Pickett.
Yeah.
Ridder would have been cut by now, and I would have picked up probably a Hayden Hurst or someone who has a little bit of value for my team where Ridder has zero value.
That's going to be hard for you because that's 2 roster spots. You're not going to see either of those guys soon.
Oh, I think we're going to see Pickett sooner rather than later.
I get them confused. Pickett's the Steelers?
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, you're holding to get a good sample size and see if they're worth keeping. It's going to be week 7, 8, 9.
Those are lottery tickets. Those are scratch-off lottery tickets that you have a 1 in a billion chance.
Agreed.
Of
I just think they're taking having 2 of them
retiring
with no value takes up a lot of space on your roster. that you're going to be itching to cut one eventually. And it's going to be hard. You're going to have not much sample size to do
Yeah,
so.
and what it'll boil down to is Desmond Ritter will get cut.
Okay.
And he knows this.
Is he watching?
We've pulled him in. And we had the conversation. Keep his bags packed. Don't unpack. Just, live off the hotel. He didn't even get a rental house like we provided everyone. He stayed in the training camp hotel.
Ouch.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up this edition of the CCFFL update. We'll see you again. We're going to try to do this, I guess, every so often.
Yeah. Quarterly, bi-weekly, something
Whenever.
like that. Whatever time for.
Yep. Happy football.